It's 5 o'clock. Let's call the Leitchfield Planning Commission meeting to order. This is a special called meeting for May the 24th of 2023. We are at Leitchfield City Hall, and April, you please call the roll.
I will. We're missing Commissioner Whitmore. Commissioner Mudd.
Here.
Chairman Buckles.
Here.
Vice Chair Clemens.
Here.
Commissioner Bocock.
Here.
Commissioner Hack.
Here.
All right, thank you. Just to note that Commissioner Whitmore is the only missing commissioner today. Our staff, Tyler Harrell and Heather Peters, are here as well. Before you, you have the minutes from the May 8th regular meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those. And I'll accept a motion for acceptance or any corrections that may be needed to be noted.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
I have a motion.
Second.
Missy Mudd with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the amend application for RZ 23116. Talk to me.
So when that application was submitted, it was submitted by the owner of an LLC in his personal name, not in the name of the LLC, but David amended that before it was sent to the council, so I just wanted to inform everyone that.
Okay, so that's just more of an advisement
Yes.
for the commission? Anybody have any concerns over that? Questions?
Which one was it?
Yeah, in particular, review.
That was, so RZ 23116 was the property at the intersection 1214 and bypass. Steve Ashley submitted an application, and it was actually owned by S&S Sales and Rentals LLC, so it was changed to that business name with the LLC.
Okay, and the council got the correct information?
Yes.
Correct version. All right, thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have a public hearing scheduled for proposed amendment to the sign ordinance. Before we give a little bit of a preamble on this public hearing, everyone signed in that wants to speak? Okay, very good. Heather, if you'll bring me that sign-up sheet. But this public hearing is a little bit different than some of the public hearings that we have. This one is not quasi-judicial in nature. We are not taking testimony. We are not swearing in. We are reviewing a set of proposed changes to the sign ordinance for the city of Leitchfield. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to gather input from those parties who have concerns or are invested in some way. Then we will consider that input. We will consider the review that we'll hear from staff. And while I make motions and I don't vote in the event of a tie, my guess is we are not going to vote on this issue tonight. We are most likely to take the feedback we receive and then schedule a vote at a later date. But that's for you all to decide before the meeting is adjourned. So, all right, so let's start first, Tyler. I think it's important to the process here. I'd kind of like an explanation of what brought us to tonight and why you think, I presume you're recommending the changes that you've reviewed. Kind of why did we arrive to tonight and the recommended changes?
Okay, so for the past couple of years, actually, this has been in place or in the process to where we are tonight. Just going off comments about our ordinance from past board members and some current board members, I tried to compile all of that information and put it together the best that I could through those discussions. So that's brought us to where we are with these proposed.
Okay. So it's a cumulative process?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any in particular? I presume that we've been seeing them for the last couple of months. In fact, we delayed this process once because I didn't feel like we were properly informed, and I think that was the consensus of the Planning Commission. Are there any of these that you think need particular attention drawn to them before we accept public comment?
I mean, unless anybody has any questions pertaining.
After we accept public input, if that's okay with everyone. All right, I have Steve. come forward, please, and make sure you're close enough to the microphone so we can record your comments and for those online can watching. And Steve, we're going to limit, you have 5 minutes to start, okay? Go right ahead.
First and foremost, why? What's the reason, the logic, and the proposed benefit of changes that are on the list? Second of all, we have a terrible sign that is overly vague and just poorly written. What I have in front of me that looks like the proposed new one doesn't improve on that, it just makes it worse. It just compounds the problems that are already there. As far as any benefit to the city, I don't see by restricting the size down to 100 square foot. Eliminated all every sign in that district from ever being able to put it in. Doesn't make sense. If, we have a city that is shrinking, and to cut off our marketability doesn't make any sense at all. So the ability to attract new development and business is not going to come to from places that are looking at it and going, I can't even really advertise it here. I can't put my sign in the back. I can't put my market. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Third, this is going to create a whirlwind of problems with box trailers, semi-trailers, box trucks that don't fall under this ordinance. Currently, you can put signs at the market. You take that out of the equation, you're going to have ugly ass trucks parked everywhere. So I guess that's what we want to do. So, there's a litany of other things in there as far as the abandoned signs, as far as 30 days, take it down. Most buildings go vacant, they're vacant more than 30 days. You're gonna make them take signs down for the next person that comes in? That doesn't make sense. So, and then on the permitting, is a question that I have had forever. What constitutes a permit? Not should we pay a permit for a sign, but when should you pay? Once the sign structure is in place, it's a permitted structure. So, one place where it's at, somebody else slides a new face into it, does that constitute a new permit? You take Southgate Mall, their sign that has however many tenant spots. Are we paying a permit every time a tenant changes? Or is it for the structure of the sign? So, that's kind of something that this is the only place I deal with that charges outside of the structure of the sign. So that's in every surrounding county. Yeah. But, so there's just not a lot of clarification in there because it's so vague. There's nothing, it needs a lot more detail. I'm in favor of an ordinance, but it needs to be a good one. Not subject to whoever's interpretation of the day, which is what we've had for years, and it doesn't work. So, model signs that laid everything out, highly editable, but nothing off of that is in here. And, I don't think we should treat the bypass the same as we treat West Main Street. That's two different worlds. So sign restriction wise, it doesn't make sense. So, but that's all I got.
Thank you, Steve. Just one question before we move on to the model ordinance that you mentioned you submitted. When did you do that?
You remember when that was, Tyler?
It was back last fall,
But there's been some recency to it. It wasn't years ago. The reason I ask is I had a couple-year absence from this board, and so I was just trying to track, some of these changes as they've evolved. Thanks for your input, Steve. I appreciate it. Aubrey Beatty. Aubrey. You okay? All right, very good. Thank you for being here. Mark Cook, please come forward. And just close enough to the mic there, we make sure you get recorded. Thank you, Mark. Go ahead.
Steve told about what I wanted to tell you as far as his standpoint of it. I want to come to you from a business standpoint, more of a entrepreneur. I've been in this game 25 years now, and I'll just be upfront with you. If I didn't have billboards when I owned Smitty City, we wouldn't have survived because they helped me make 3 months' payments on my store down there. Billboards are an important part of what I look at things, and with you all scaling down the size of it to 100 square foot, like Steve said, what is one print? Very few people. My stand is the billboard need to be separate from just the average Joe Pizza Hut sign or McDonald's sign. My standpoint is it needs to be not maybe separate regulated, but separately discussed in the ordinance of how it needs to be laid out, whether it needs to be solely constructed of metal frame or whatever. That's fine, 1,000 feet apart, I'm fine with that. But for you to change it now when you've already got the cat out of the bag with all these other billboards that are around, and then potentially the new bypass coming around there, those property owners might want at least space for a billboard too, and they're not gonna be allowed to if you scale it down to 100 square feet, because there's no national chain or anybody gonna wanna do 100 square feet because it's not big enough to see it from the roads or anywhere. So my standpoint as a business person is you need to let us continue on as entrepreneurs to make revenue, to make money any way we can. I did end up getting a sign owners for there, but I'm having a little bit of trouble finding a partner now that wants to work with it because they're afraid of what's going to happen in Leitchfield. I already had one comment about that with one company that I contacted. I guess there's something going on with another billboard down the road, whatever. But so that might be an issue because we have to clearly define. That's my it needs to be clearly defined what you're going to allow these businesses to do. If a business wants to locate here, how much they're going to be allowed for their particular sign. And I think it needs to be regulated for billboards. Something specifically worded for it. Like I said, if it's 1,000 feet apart, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with an ordinance. And I don't like the willy-nilly of just any little thing being popped up here and there. I think it needs to be neat and presentable throughout the city. But like I said, you've already let the cat out of the bag, and to me, it's like you're tying my hands. I've got property. I've invested in property. One of the main reasons I bought some of this property is because I put a billboard there. I said, hey, I know we can make money off of advertising billboards. And so that's, maybe $10,000, $20,000 a year that I'm not going to have coming in unless I can get somebody there. Now, like I said, I've already got a permit for that, but I got to get it put up in 6 months. And I'm having a little bit of difficulty partnering with somebody because they're afraid things are going to change and they're not going to do what they want to do as far as, the advertising. So that's my major thing is, not changing the billboards. I'm fine with the signage, scaling, for each little business, but I think there needs to be something different for billboards specifically is what my stance would be on it if you're going to advertise.
Is that it? All right, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Thanks for participating, and thanks for your input. All right, anybody have any questions? I presume you all would field questions if anybody had any, or any questions or comments or discussion amongst the board. Tim?
Steve, I know this is your business. What are you seeing in other communities that are doing this and how you feel a different way, maybe a better way, and can you explain that to us?
Steve, if you don't care, would you come back up, please? Thank you. People can hear you now.
Most places are approaching from a demographic of the area. Whereas, say you take West Main Street, Mill Street, 2-lane road, 35 mile an hour, it falls under one premise of how the ordinance is written and what's allowable through there. You take out here where you have a 4-lane, bigger area, bigger open space with more competition in the area, it falls under a different premise. And then the bypass, you're talking businesses that are already sitting 7,500 feet off the road. You limit them to 100 square feet, that's nothing. That ain't worth doing anything. So, and then you take, like, for example, well, I'll just give you a quick example, is the Mexican restaurant right up here, their sign is over 100 square feet. Y'all think this sign's too big? It's not very big at all. So if you cut it down to less than that, you've killed Dairy Queen, you've killed McDonald's, and if they ever leave in another place to come, there's no incentive. There's nothing. So you just hamstring the whole community. by trying to apply the one size fits all to a wide demographic of areas. Now, I don't think you should be able to put up a 200 square foot sign on Cave Mill Road, because that'd be ridiculous. But, you know, it's kind of, you gotta look at every area and apply some logic to it. What's effective, without being intrusive, but the model sign ordinance that I submitted, it laid all of this out. And size by road, population, speed limits, setbacks, I mean, it's all in there. And that's let's see what kind of thing. I forgot what university it is, but it was with the Department of Transportation and the 10 agencies that come up with this thing. And it's the U.S. Model Sign Code. So it's hundreds of millions of dollars and years of research put into this thing. So, just one more point on the one here. It says should no illuminated signs within 50 foot of an intersection. Have y'all really thought about that? Every gas station, the entrance to Southgate Mall, Twin Lakes Liquors, AutoZone, Vance Auto Parts. They're at those locations for a reason, and if you cut them down, don't make have a lighted sign. You just kill it. It serves no purpose. So,
Anybody else have a,
logical approach.
anybody have a question for Steve while he's up? I don't want to have to make him get up and down and up and down. Anybody else?
What do you think's logical for the size of a billboard? Like, I mean, can you, I understand you're talking 100 square feet is a small sign for a billboard
Right.
type sign. What's,
Typical billboard starts at 300 square feet. We've never been able to have a 300 square foot sign in town. Built right and done correctly, 300 feet is not overly large. Most of the new ones that are going in, they're 16 by 48. So, I mean, they're getting big size. 15 by 36 is kind of what's going up in E-Town, most of those up there. So, you know, if you drive up through there, they're not overly obnoxious driving down through there, because they do regulate how close they can be to each other, how far off the road they have to be, and how high they have to be. And not only maximum height, but minimum height. So, it's playing the game of airspace and figuring out what works to put you at the line that is effective and works for the whole area. So,
but do you think maybe a 200 square feet in our area around here would be sufficient enough?
inside the city limits would probably be somewhere, I would push more 250 to 300, just because 200 square foot sounds big, and 10 by 20 sounds big, until you try to put information on it, and try to look at it from 300 feet away. You don't get a lot on there. At that size, you can pretty much throw a brand and a slogan, and that's really about all you get.
But we ain't careful on some of these signs, you know, they can stack them like double high, and then that way you got,
Right.
you know.
Now, you're right to where that is the total amount of face space per stack. Not per face of the sign, but per side of the stack. And go that route. But if you want to qualify under billboard, then you would have to meet a very specific set of qualifications for a billboard permit. Otherwise, you're just a sign, and which would fall under a separate permit and a separate set of regulations that you would have to meet the criteria for. You know, it's just kind of one of those, it's like, it's kind of like going to the car dealership and saying, I want to buy a car. But if you get real specific on what you want, you may walk out with a Yugo or you may walk out with a Mercedes. But, you know, if you ain't real specific on what you're after, you're just going to get what you get. And if we don't get pretty specific on this, then what we're going to get is a bunch of semi-trailers and box trucks lettered up and parked everywhere, because they're not covered under any sign ordinance and you can't do a thing about it. So, I mean, I'd hate to see something go in and us force people into doing something that's way more costly than we already have. And so, but like I said, I think if you look at everything and kind of approach each area of the city, figure out what works for it, because, you know, the big W on the front of Walmart is bigger than 100 square foot. So, to kind of give you an idea of some different sizes on stuff around here, 100 square foot's not very big. And you're really cutting things way, way, way back. And that's what we'll lose out on any development potential. for
Steve,
anywhere.
do you have that US model sign code available, saved on your computer somewhere or
I have
accessible?
it.
Yeah.
Would you mind emailing that and also your model ordinance
Yeah.
to us so that we can review that?
Sounds like we can probably have it by the end of the day, so.
You can
Tyler's
have
got
it real quick. I've got it right here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Steve or Mark or Aubrey?
I'm curious for the both of you, from you as a sign owner and from him as the entrepreneur side of things, everything's changing. You know, we're advancing, things are changing, cities are growing. With the people that you talk to on a regular basis, the people you talk to on a regular basis, what do you see as a happy medium for us to get to be prepared for what's coming in the future as far as development?
Oh, that's a big list. But, you know, and that goes way outside of the sign thing. That
Yeah.
goes from the housing part. that
Well,
me
and I'm-
Mark both have. Cleaned up with a lot of filth.
Well, I'm talking about the sign part of things.
The first thing is not to be overly restrictive where you
Okay.
run people off before they ever have a chance to come and look.
Okay.
Because there is no national chain, no mid-level chain.
Right.
Very few small-level chains that are gonna invest in a brick-and-mortar location if they can't market it to its fullest potential, because you're fighting with online already.
Well, no, you're supposed to, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's two purposes that we need to look at: retaining what we currently have and setting a good system in place to attract what's coming.
Right. And the more competitive the brick and mortar landscape gets, the more you're gonna have to have visual stimulation to get people's attention to get them in the door.
Thank you.
It's just, there's no more, sadly, there's no more Sandy's. That's never gonna be anything to go with Sandy's today, because it's just not gonna happen. You don't have the flash, you don't have the pizzazz, you don't have the draw to make people come through the door. And, you know, that one survives because it's kind of a staple of the community. Outside of that, if you put it in today, it's going up. And so, but you can't build any economic development by restricting the way that you give people their money for business. If we were a tourist draw area that was a growing metropolis economy, you can do a lot more restriction, but we're not. Oh, the city of Leitchfield is shrinking, and we're not getting bigger. One of the few cities around it, the population is going down. So, and the median income is going down inside the city limits. Outside the city, looking pretty good. Inside the city, not so good. So,
You want to circle back, Mark? Yeah, you didn't use all your time, so I'll let you use it.
Sorry.
I'm just
To answer your
curious.
question, like,
Yeah.
for instance, I've had IGA and Pizza Hut both
Okay,
ask me about a digital billboard out front there,
okay,
okay? And want to do advertising on that to try to get their customers, like any business will,
Yeah.
with digital billboards.
okay.
And so that's kind of been a situation where we were undecided on what we was gonna do there. Now we're just gonna put it back, since the storm blew it out, we're just gonna put it back with some of the business names on it, kind of scale it down so it ain't as busy looking. One of the things I forgot to bring up in Mark was hypothetically, in a situation where this ordinance is now the way it's proposed, hypothetically, if I put up a billboard over here by my Verizon building, and I I lease that billboard out, I'm not allowed to put any other sign there whatsoever. Say if another business moves in that wants to do a digital billboard out front to advertise their shop, they can't do that no longer because we've got the billboard out back. So, and I know there's other businesses around town kind of in the same situation where there might be a billboard in place and they're gonna have a business there. That business is not allowed to advertise their business because that national and branded billboard is up there. That's the way it is. That's what I'm saying. I see everything with a billboard that needs to be in our rules, I feel like, to specifically outline what billboards should look like, square footages, minimums or maximums, what they're constructed of and all that, and then separate for individual businesses, what you're allowed to put up. Like he said, 100 square foot is not big enough for a big national franchise like McDonald's, who's got that, you know, you guys look at it, it don't look that big, but it is huge, that one they got way up in the air there. So, I mean, you need to allow that to let people come in, and like I said, know firsthand with my business people over here, they want all that they can get. They don't want to be gaudy looking, but they want all they can get, and they want, like I said, more of it. You know, these days, that's the way things are going. So, I would just say, look at what E-Town's done, look at some more progressive cities and how they're doing, and it looks clean to me for the most part. I mean, there's some crashy stuff everywhere you go. But to me, it looks pretty, I took a lot of pictures. I meant to get some developed. Me and George talked the other day, and I meant to develop some, didn't have time, of some nicely done digital billboards and regular billboards around the city of Elizabethtown. It looks great. I mean, yeah, you got your tacky stuff and jumped up together, but you keep your thing 1,000 feet apart and all that kind of stuff. That's good. I mean, I think it looks clean and neat, but don't change it now and cut me off at the knee. I don't want to expand my business. These other businesses that want to come in, they want to be able to advertise their business and promote it, you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you. All right. Everybody satisfied with the amount of public input we've got? Okay. All right. Tyler, what's unclear, or maybe what have you heard from us, or what are we not interpreting correctly about the ordinance or the recommended changes, if anything, at this point?
All right, so
Anything that needs to be clarified?
well, just to go back and answer some of the questions that I did answer to. It was in August of last year when you provided that. And this is by the United States Sign Council Foundation. But this only pertains to on-premise signs, not off-premise, which a billboard would be an off-premise sign. So this is the model code for regulations of on-premise signs conducted by the United States Sign Council Foundation and various universities. And it was done in 2016. So there's the answer to that. You answered that in a sense yourself. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So, and I see where you're saying that you don't feel like this is any better, so that's why we have the public hearing, to get this input and then discuss it further and try to come up with something that works for everybody.
That was my thing. It didn't clarify anything. It just reduced the size.
Okay. All right. Tyler, anything else?
The abandoned sign, 30 days, that was already placed with the original ordinance. The only thing that was changing was to clarify on and off-premise signs in that one. As far as the box trailer and truck thing, we can work around that and do something with the ordinance to further clarify that. Illuminated signs, that's what I put in. That was probably a bad choice of word. That was to be interpreted as the scrolling marquee digital signs because of safety, where they flash in the different colors and it attracts. So I can clean that verbiage up.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. It just needs to be written very specific and very clean.
Anything else, Tyler?
No, unless I didn't answer anything that anybody can think of.
All right. Any questions for Tyler from the commission? Okay. All right. So what we need to do next is we need, unless someone has something else on this issue, we need to vote to close this public hearing and continue with the regular agenda. If you're ready for that.
I do have one more question. The sole purpose of planning and zoning in general is the benefit and betterment of the community, lifestyle, economic development, the whole 9 yards. So has anybody done any kind of a proposed benefit
I'll presume you know it's a rhetorical question. Right?
Pretty much, because I mean, I don't think we've ever done anything on the basis of what is the benefit as much as everything that's done on the, well, we should do something. And
Okay.
we've had complaints that we should do something, and that's what we end up. Never because of what is most beneficial.
Someone want to close the public hearing? Kendall makes a motion, is there a second? April will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, thank you. So at this point, the commission can, you can vote on any of these, all of these, none of these. You can table it till a future date after you've done research with the input that you've gathered. I'll just need someone who wants to lead to make a motion on which of those you all think that you should do, and you feel free to discuss it among yourselves if you'd like.
I think we should take.
I personally want to analyze it further.
I do too. We need more time.
Mark,
Seems-
I make a motion that we table this matter for further discussion and research.
All right, Tim with the motion, is there a second?
Second.
George with the second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Mark, I'd like to make a recommendation, maybe if these gentlemen would get together, maybe with Tyler, and try to push out on that.
That's okay.
Yeah, good. Would you be in favor of that, Tyler?
Yes, Mark and I had met back about a month or so ago, and he expressed some concerns with it, but I'd be glad to sit down with all three of you if we could schedule a time together.
all right, thank you, fellas. You're welcome to stay. We're just going to talk about comprehensive plan coming up, but if you can leave or you can stay, but we're going to roll on with the rest of the agenda. Comprehensive plan update, this has been looming for a while, and we're going to try and chart a course for the rest of the year on addressing this update is required. What do we need to know tonight, Tyler?
So, last week I attended the Kappa Spring Conference, a lot of information there, and then today, some of us attended a roundtable at Lincoln Trail Ad. Basically, that's pertaining to what's to come from the Blue Oval plant. You know, how do we be prepared for it, particularly Hardin County and surrounding counties. So whenever we're looking at this cost plan, we really need to focus on what is this going to bring to our area and what do we need to do to be prepared for it. I did talk with one of the board members on Kappa. I'm going to send him a RFP that he's going to get out on the Kappa website so we can start getting some proposals back and then get some money in the budget to get that taken care of. So we'll have some help with this from consultants.
I think we must, I've been involved in, unless it's been done in the last 2 years, I guess I've been involved in every comprehensive plan update that we've done back to the mid-90s. I think we have to look at this one differently than any of the others have been looked at, because this is a generational shift that would be, for me, akin to Toyota in Scott County 30 years ago. And if you talk to most of the leaders, and I know you all heard from several of them today at planning and planning training, that we are definitely within the radius, you know, when they look at these areas of impact, Leitchfield is definitely within the radial circle that will have a tremendous, be impacted tremendously in some really good ways and potentially in some harmful ways, and we have to kind of address those. So while for me personally, I have appreciated the work of Lincoln Trail over the years, and they've been very helpful, I think we have to get creative about doing this and doing it well, not just doing it because it has to be updated. So I would think continue, as far as I'm concerned, continue on soliciting those, getting an RFP out to see who can maybe help us and kind of with a broader search than maybe we've historically done.
Right, and, I mean, I'd like to go as far as having housing study within the city, see where we're at, where are we lacking. You know, not only do we need to focus on the housing, but are we gonna have enough things to offer, childcare, restaurants, businesses, you know? How do we need to look at our future land use map in order to be able to offer these properties up for the needs of the community? So, I'm looking at trying to have some local meetings with local realtors and developers, get their input, and, business owners around town. That way we can try and figure out what we need.
Yeah, it really starts with a conversation about infrastructure and planning, and all those things have to work in concert to be able to be ready for the opportunity, and then also to address any, you know, problems that we may see on the horizon. So, your fiscal year is 7/1 to 6/30?
Yes.
So where are we in the budgetary process now for next fiscal year?
Very, very close to deadline.
Okay, all right, so it sounds like you've got some work to do before
Yes.
before the deadline. All right, very good. All right, anything else not on the agenda, any new business that I'm unaware of? Sorry, special meeting, we can't do any new business, so.
Just to add to what Tyler said, two different gentlemen said there's going to be an economic tsunami that's hitting us. And something that Tyler shared with us that was really surprising to me, out of 2,000 people that have already been hired by Blue Oval, 3,000 people, that 1,000 of those,
No, the majority.
the majority are from Grayson County.
Yep.
So it will definitely impact us.
So the parkway will have to be 6 lanes wide?
Big Clifty exit maybe?
All right, since we covered everything that was articulated in our special call meeting, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Kendall makes a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tim with the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, thank you all.